Hey, welcome to episode 9 of I Am Beauty and the Beast. This is Arouge, of course. I had some big news to share. The big news is that I just got engaged about a week and a half ago, and I'm so excited to share this news with you. Some of you know me from 2018, which is when this whole journey started, and you've been by my side supporting me and believing me and not judging me and just showing me all kinds of love. And so I just want to say thank you to my friends and family that have been there for me. And my fiance, he's amazing. I have been seeing him for a year. So he proposed on the 1 year anniversary of our first date. And our first date was coffee at Summer Moon in McKinney. So the fact that fast forward a year later, we're engaged and we're planning our wedding, it's kind of surreal. It hits me at times, and other times I'm just like, la, 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 you know. But it's just been an amazing journey. And I figured I should record an episode to commemorate this day and share this win or this wonderful milestone or whatever you want to call it, right? It's great news. It is really cool. And what makes it cool is that I know exactly how I ended up here. I know exactly. And I wouldn't change anything, because if I would change something, then I wouldn't be here right now. So I really would keep everything exactly as it was. But I want to share what it is, right? What is it that I did that today I can be here and share this wonderful news with you? And I will tell you, 6 years of trying to figure stuff out to get here was not easy, but totally worth it. And I want to share what I think was the biggest factor of how I ended up engaged today. And I can tell you that without a doubt, it is all about self-acceptance. So the funny thing is, when I got divorced in 2018, self-acceptance and learning about myself was important, but that wasn't the focus. My focus was find a relationship, get married again, which is crazy because I know some people are like, yep, never doing that again. But I was just optimistic. I'm like, I just picked the bad apple, or I just messed that one up, whatever you want to say, right? Whatever excuses I made. But I thought to myself, I know what I'm doing this time. I'm going to find the right person, and it's going to be peaches and cream, and it's going to be awesome. And we're just going to get married, and let's see, I'm this many years old now, so in about 2 years, I'll be married again. That's what I was thinking. That's how easy I thought it was going to be. But it turns out that it is not easy, and the biggest reason why it was so hard is because I kept getting into relationships, and bad ones sometimes, or not so good ones other times. But my focus was being in a relationship. My focus was not working on myself. I was doing it in the background. I was working on myself. I was seeing a counselor, then I was seeing a personal coach. But I wasn't making myself the priority. I was like, well, I got to just keep doing this work in the background. But the most important thing is finding my person. And interestingly, when I met my fiance, Derek, he goes by Des, so I'll be calling him Des. So when I met Des, it was when I had basically given up on trying to find a relationship and just saying, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to live my best life, like to the max. I don't need a relationship. I'm going to focus on my kids. I'm going to focus on my work, family, friendships, and relationship, whatever. I don't care. And the biggest thing was like, I just accepted it. I just accepted that it's not time yet. The reason I hadn't met my person is that it's just not time yet. So my thinking of it's just not time yet was around the end of 2023. Around the end of 2023, I accepted that the reason why I haven't met the person who's right for me is because it's just not time yet. And that's okay. I will meet that person when I'm meant to meet them and not a moment sooner. And this acceptance, this sense of acceptance, was so powerful. And the funny thing is that I ended up meeting Des in January of 2024. So just a few months later, I'm meeting the person I'm going to marry. But at the time, I had no idea that was coming. I had no idea that was around the corner. I had no idea how soon I would be meeting this amazing, incredible human being. And so there was a level of acceptance of my journey and of myself that was unlike any other period of my life. And I know I was working on self-acceptance all along. It's just that I think I fully embraced it. And I remember that moment. It was a little bit before my birthday. So I do want to talk about the way I got here. And one of the things I did was when I worked with a personal coach a couple of years ago, she asked me to create a 5 sensory based description of my ideal life and my goal. So a few years back, my goal was to find a person who loves me as much as I love them, who treats me the way I've always treated others. And he is just this wonderful person. And I described this relationship using all 5 senses. So what I see, what I hear, what I smell, what I taste, what I feel, all of that, I described it in this healthy relationship, in this vision of my future where I'm truly happy. And it wasn't just the relationship, it was also me. How do I envision myself in my future if I could have everything I can imagine as perfect as possible? What would it look like? So she said that you can manifest this. And I'm like, well, there's no harm in trying. So I did this activity where I sat down and I wrote exactly what my life looks like using all 5 senses, 1 sense at a time. And I described my life and my ideal partner. And I feel like the person that I ended up meeting far exceeds what I had written up, what I had imagined. And that's really, really cool. Going back a little bit in time, though, the self-criticism. So I just found an old journal from when I was in high school. So like 2006, 2007. And oh my gosh, now what am I saying? Oh, I'm older than that. I graduated in 2003. Oh. So it was a journal entry from when I think I was a sophomore or junior in high school. I'm not going to go into the years because time's just passing way too fast, okay? I'm not going to talk about what year I was in high school. It was a sophomore or junior year entry, and I basically said, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I wish I was skinnier, I wish I was prettier, I wish somebody liked me, and I hate myself. And I wrote all of this in one entry, and I just found it a week and a half ago. And it's crazy because as I'm reading this journal entry from my 16, 15-year-old version, I'm like, whoa, that's dark. And at one point I even wrote, I wish I was dead. So I forgot about that. It's been so long that I forgot I had those intense negative feelings towards myself. And then fast forward to where I am today, I don't even recognize that those thoughts, they're like not even my own, but they're familiar because that's right. I did feel those things. And that's what I've been talking about so much is my journey of self-improvement. And that self-improvement journey entailed self-acceptance and self-love. I basically thought if somebody didn't like me or didn't have a crush on me or wanted to like be with me, it just means that I'm ugly. If I was prettier, somebody would like me. You know, if I was smarter, definitely prettier, that was a big one. If I was skinnier, I thought that would help me get into a great relationship, but that's not how that works, is it? There's one relationship in particular, after I'd done so much work on myself and I had created this idea of what my ideal partner is going to be like and what my ideal life looks like. I met somebody and this person checked all the boxes in the beginning. The first 3 months, this person checked all the boxes, and the red flags I did see, I sort of overlooked, to be honest. I'm not going to lie. And it's because I was seeing all the positive qualities. So here I was again, compromising on what I thought was important. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this guy checks all the boxes. But in reality, he kind of did, but he didn't. He checked some of the boxes for sure. But there were plenty of things that I should have been more skeptical of. For example, our first date, I asked him if he sees himself getting married, and he basically said, well, who am I to say what the universe has in store for me? I'm just going with the flow. And I'm like, okay, but do you even see that as a possibility in your future? He's like, anything's possible. That was my first red flag, and I totally ignored it in this relationship. And I'm telling you this relationship because this is kind of the turning point for me. So in this relationship, we were seeing each other for 3 months, and there was one argument in particular, and it was the last time that he and I really talked to each other. But we had an argument, and it was about something completely like should not have been a big deal. And when I tried to figure out what went wrong, where the breakdown in communication was, he basically told me to stop talking. He literally went like this gesture. And at that moment, I was like, whoa, did he literally just tell me to shut up with his hands without, like, it's like he wanted to reach out and grab my lips and close my mouth for me. He didn't do it, but this gesture, I don't do that to anybody. And at that moment, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt just crushed, absolutely crushed. He accused me of just trying to pick a fight, and I was so far from the truth. Honestly, I was using all the tools I had learned, all the work, the culmination of all of my growth. I tried to use that to resolve a conflict. And the fact that he basically shut me up, or suggested that I shut myself up, that was it for me. Because I realized this person doesn't respect me enough to want to hear my point of view. This person doesn't have enough sense of ownership of what he did that hurt my feelings. And here I am trying to understand where he was coming from when he hurt my feelings. And when he refused to communicate with me, that was it for me. I was like, nope, never again am I going to be in a relationship where the person that I'm supposed to be the most open and honest with, never again am I going to be in a relationship where the person that's supposed to love me and listen to me shuts me up. I've been there before. And I'd been there before in previous relationships, even after the divorce. I'd been in relationships where I'd silenced myself over and over again. And I got better at not silencing myself. I got better at speaking up. Then I had to learn how to speak up for myself, but in a productive way. I had to learn how to control my emotions and speak from a place of calm. And I used everything that I could possibly use in my toolbox to have a healthy exchange to prevent future misunderstandings in this subject. And the person refused. So that was my turning point. That was when I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. So in my mind, the relationship was over. He reached out to me, I think it was like a week later, as if nothing was wrong, and wanted to see about like getting together. And I was basically, when he reaches out to me a week after I walk away from him, when he reaches out and I say, if I try to tell you the way you hurt my feelings, would you be willing to listen? And he basically said, stop being dramatic. You're making a big deal out of nothing, and you need to move on. And that hurt, because here I was thinking that maybe he realized he was a little harsh in the way he treated me for trying to resolve a conflict. And, you might be like, well, maybe you were being too direct. Maybe you were being too intense. You could think whatever you want to think about what I could have been doing wrong. But I know that I was doing my best. I know that my intentions were good. I know that I was coming from a good place when I was trying to resolve the conflict that led to us breaking up. So the bottom line is, I realized this person is refusing to take ownership of their part in the dynamic. He's even refusing to listen to my perspective. That was it. It was like that relationship right there was when I knew for sure I would never allow someone to talk to me like that again. I would never stay in a relationship and ignore red flags. I would never date somebody where I see the red flags and I try to make excuses for those red flags. I did that. I did that in every relationship before. I would make an excuse for red flags. I would even make excuses for pink flags, right? The ones that are not quite red flags, but you're like, well, maybe I'm worrying too much. So I decided, nope, I'm not making excuses for anybody. I know I'm showing up in the best way possible. And if they're not willing to do the same or at least try, then that person's not for me. And after that relationship, I did meet other people. I did see other people. I did have a relationship that was about 8-9 months long after that. And in that relationship, something else didn't line up. And I sort of ignored red flags, but because they weren't directed at me personally, I didn't think of them as red flags exactly. They were kind of like pink flags, like proceed with caution. But he treated me well for the most part. And what kind of caused the end of that, the downfall of that relationship, was a difference in values. It came down to a difference in values, and it really did take 9 months to figure out that our values were truly different. And the reason for that is because the reason that became a problem was because I was thinking about things in a more serious way. Like, could I see myself getting married to somebody that's like this? And the answer was no. And there wasn't anything truly wrong. It was more just like, this person isn't right for me. Here's the thing. It's like old me would have been willing to ignore a lot of things. So because of the positives. So this newer version of myself, before I met Derek, this last relationship, more serious relationship that I had, I knew they weren't the right person for me, and I was willing to make the hard decision to walk away. And it wasn't because they did anything hurtful towards me directly. It was a difference in values. And I know I'm repeating myself a little bit. But because I was willing to walk away from that, and it in some ways it was really easy because the difference in values were so drastic, but it still sucked. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy to let go, especially when there's not something clearly wrong. But it was more of like, I think I deserve better. I think I deserve somebody that treats others better. And I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't want to criticize someone. It's their journey. It just didn't align with my values, like I've said. But it wasn't easy. I had to accept that here, yet again, I'm alone. Again. And it's always a little bit challenging, but totally worth it. 100% worth it, and I would do it again. Except maybe if I had to repeat it, I would probably end that relationship sooner. I would end that relationship sooner for sure. One of the things that I value the most is personal growth. I knew that I would never be happy in a relationship unless they were also as invested in personal growth as I was, or more invested. And so that was what was different about Derek. On our first date or coffee meetup, we ended up talking for over 3 hours. And 3 hours sitting on a hard coffee shop chair, and time flew by. We had so many values in common, completely different backgrounds. He grew up in Scotland and I grew up in Chicago and Texas, and you wouldn't think that these two completely different people from completely different worlds could come together and find something to talk about for 3.5 hours. And yet we did. And it was all related to personal growth and our journeys. And it was all very positive. And it was all very open, where I saw how much he was taking ownership of his past. And he wasn't the first person to take ownership. It's the way he did it and the way he talked about how he does his business, how he does his life. That's what drew me to him. I was like, he's cool. And I remember at the end of that first date, I remember thinking, I want him in my life, even if we don't end up dating in a romantic way. I want him in my life. I like how he thinks. I think I have a lot to learn from him. And that's what was so cool and so different from the first day. So with Derek, with Des, our values aligned. And it helps that he doesn't drink and I don't drink alcohol. So we had that in common. So that value wasn't going to be in conflict. So I wasn't compromising. I wasn't ignoring now with Derek. I wasn't ignoring pink flags. I wasn't making excuses for him. He was completely open about himself. So over the next year of dating, which is the past year now, we spent so much time just talking. We could talk for hours and hours. Like, we could sit on the couch and talk from like 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. It's like, oh my gosh, time to go home, right? So we had this amazing connection, and the values being aligned were what mattered so much. There were a lot of reasons why I wanted to get to know Derek and chose to spend my time with him. So anyway, the reason I was finally able to meet somebody like Derek is because of all the work I did leading up to meeting him. I know for a fact that if he and I met up that day and I hadn't worked on myself, even if I thought he was cool and wanted to hang out with him, there's a pretty good chance that he would not have reciprocated that, because he would have seen I don't have my life figured out. I don't have myself figured out. I haven't worked on myself, and he would not have been attracted to that. So he was attracted to my growth as well and my growth mindset. This whole time, I was looking, before meeting Des, and this whole time ever since I started having crushes, I was looking for others to accept me so that I could accept myself. I was looking for validation from outside sources in order to love myself. And that is the opposite of what I needed to do. The moment I decided that I love myself, like truly I'm going to put myself first, I'm going to treat myself well, that is when I met Derek. And we have the healthiest relationship that I could have ever imagined. And it's not perfect. It's not that we never hurt each other's feelings by misspeaking. It's not that we are always perfect and it's always like amazing and happy-go-lucky. We have our moments where one of us says something that comes across the wrong way, or our egos kind of get in the way a little bit. And the thing is though, that we always can step back and analyze our own behaviors, or we feel safe enough to share what might have hurt our feelings. And so because of this work that each of us has done on ourselves, we are able to have a much, much healthier relationship together as a couple. And we're way more likely to succeed. If I had one way to recap this whole episode, it would be with one simple thing. It would be loving myself first is more important than loving someone else or expecting that love from someone else. I have to love myself first. And I mean truly. I have to love all the things that I think are flaws. I have to find the positive. I also have to work on myself. I have to become a better version of myself. So I cannot love anyone else fully, and I cannot find love from someone else until I love myself completely and fully, which sounds counterintuitive. But when I love myself, I treat myself well, right? When I love myself, I take care of myself. I see the value in investing in my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, and all of that health, right? When I am willing to put myself first and really take care of myself, I won't accept anything less from someone else. Why would I choose to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't treat me better than I treat myself? Why would I choose to be in a relationship with someone who makes me sad and hurts my feelings and puts me down? Screw that. I'm happy with myself. I'm happy in my own company. I'll play Diablo 4 on my, or actually Diablo 3. Diablo 4 is a newer thing, but I'll play Diablo on the Nintendo Switch. I'll write a new song. I'll think about a new podcast episode and then get distracted and never get around to it. There's so much I can do by myself. I can hang out with the dogs. I can go see my parents. I can go hang out with my siblings. There's so much I can do. And the big one, my kids, right? But it's about finding this harmony and this sense of happiness in my own life, all by myself, first. Then if someone else tries to come into it, my bar is set so high that if they're not helping raise it, then I'm like, no thanks. I mean, it's as simple as like muffins, for example. If you can make yourself delicious blueberry muffins, will you go out and buy cruddy muffins? Like dry cardboardy muffins for yourself? No, why would you do that? If your life is already in really good shape, then you're not going to compromise by adding things into it that mess it up. However, if let's swap it out, your muffins are cruddy and crumbly and dry cardboardy, and you find, some muffins at an outlet that are like expiring tomorrow, but you're like, well, these are better than the muffins I can make. And then you eat them and then, you're like, I guess they're all right. They're better than what I can make at home. So I guess it's cool. And you just keep buying like almost expired muffins because it's better than what you got. Is that really how you want to live? Do you want to live the life of eating almost expired muffins because you don't think you can do any better? I don't think so. I think everybody deserves a good muffin. I think everyone deserves to have a really good life on their own. You might be thinking, how am I supposed to do that? It's not about having a big bank account. So it's not about having $500,000 in your bank account. It's maybe having the 500 so you know that you're okay because you know how to spend that 500 wisely, and you don't need somebody to come along who's got money to take care of you and then also treat you bad. You know what I'm saying? So having your ish together and then finding someone who also has their shit together is ideal. What's not ideal is looking for someone to fill all the holes in your life. And I could go on and on about how that's romanticized. The world makes us think that we need to be saved or we need to go save someone. Guys are supposed to go save somebody and women need to get saved. And I grew up with that, right? The whole like Disney princess thing. The old school Disney princess always needed to be saved. And the prince was always saving. And you can switch it up. You can switch it up to where there's a girl who likes to save people and she ends up finding guys who need saving. But those are relationships that maybe will work to some degree, but I don't, in my unprofessional yet my experienced point of view, life experience point of view, you can't have a healthy, long-lasting relationship when you have two unhealthy people trying to make it work. It might work for a little while, but sooner or later someone's going to be unhappy and it's going to all fall apart. Unless it doesn't fall apart and it's out of necessity that you just stick through it for a long, long time. Yeah, sorry about that. That's a little bit dark, but that was my life for a while. It was dark. It was me looking for someone to save me. I needed someone to come along and save me. It would have been great back in 2017 if some knight in shining armor just showed up and was like, hey, you deserve better. Let me save you. That doesn't happen in real life, but boy, did I wish it would, right? Because I needed someone to help me escape my marriage. But no one was going to show up for me. I had to show up for myself. And my life changed when I started showing up for myself. So I want you to show up for yourself. I want you to treat yourself the best you possibly can. Instead of saying, I wish someone would do this for me, do it for yourself. Go treat yourself to a nice dinner. No one cares. They might look at you because you're sitting by yourself, but so what? What happens? Nothing. It's no big deal. Go take care of yourself. Go watch a movie in a theater by yourself. I've done it. I've done it once. it was scary. I was like, I can't believe I'm going to a movie theater by myself, but I want someone else to take me to the movies. Why not just take myself? And then you know what I did afterwards? I stopped at Tiff Streets and I got myself some cookies. I think I got a cookie. I was trying to be mindful. So I got a cookie. I got a chocolate chip cookie, and boy, did it taste good. And that popcorn in the movie theater was also yummy. I can take care of myself. I don't need someone to take me on a date in order to have happy, good feelings. I can do that for myself. So I encourage you that if you're hoping that someone else shows up in your life and does those things to make you happy, I encourage you to switch it up. I encourage you to see if there's a way you can do it for yourself. Instead of waiting for a man to buy you jewelry, go buy yourself jewelry. And I'm not saying this because I'm saying screw men. Far from it. It's about saying screw whatever I think I need and focus on what actually matters. If you want, so like one of the things I did was I made a chart. I made a T-chart of when I was getting ready to get a divorce. I always used to think of things in a very logical sort of way instead of listening to my gut feelings and into my intuition. But I made a T-chart, and it was things that my husband does for me and things I can do myself and things I can pay someone else to do. And the funny thing is, there was pretty much nothing on the list that my husband did that I couldn't do myself or pay someone else to do. So the pros and cons of staying in that relationship became a little more clear, a little clearer. Like, I don't have to put up with all this negativity just so I can have these perks. I can have these perks without the negativity. So when I learned how to separate it and see that I can take care of myself, again, my life got better. All right, well, I can't wait to see you back for episode 10. I hope you got something out of this episode. I hope that you find your happiness and that it's from yourself. It's create your own happiness. How's that? Create your own happiness. And then all of that good energy is going to just come into your life. You're going to attract it. When you are a happy person, when you're taking care of yourself, the universe starts to take care of you. If you neglect yourself and hate yourself and criticize yourself, the universe just confirms all of that. The universe really is on your side, whether it's for good or bad. If you want the bad, the universe will give you the bad. If you try for the good, the universe will give you the good. The universe is like, what do you want? Got it. Here it is. And it's not always instant, but it's been the case for me. The more I believed in myself, the more I loved myself, the more people I found around me that believed in me and loved me and supported me. And the old ones, the old friends, the old contacts, the old relationships that didn't believe in me and didn't support me and didn't love me, they didn't like my new energy. They didn't like me loving myself, and they fell off. You know, they gradually found their own way, and I found my own, and life's been so much better. So thank you again for your support. Thank you again so much for being with me in this journey, and I can't wait to see you next time. I think I said I was going to talk about not taking anything personally, which is the second agreement. So I might have to do that next time. Don't take anything personally. Episode 10. See you next time.